Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Art of MMA. I'm Mike Ginn. That's the mechanic, Brandon Cuttino. Back in action again another week to talk about everything that happened. Of course, we got a lot to unfold from last week. A lot of fights, a lot of events, a lot of controversy, Brandon. And then we're also going to look forward to this week. We're going to take a second to look back at DC's career as he gets ready to go into the Hall of Fame for the UFC. He'll be inducted during International Fight Week. We'll take a look at the controversy around Charles Oliveira, the now uncrowned champ. And then we'll take a look at the UFC flag man, tell you what we know, give our thoughts and opinions on it. I have a feeling I'm going to be a little bit heavy-handed on that one, and Brandon will probably just be chill. But, you know, it's been a while since we've had a rant, so there you go. And then we'll go ahead and make our picks. We got Bellator 281 this weekend. We also have UFC Vegas, all that stuff going on. So we'll get to that. Of course, check out FightersFirst.shop. Get all the latest and greatest. Let our apparel be a part of your story. We got some new fighters popping up. You just saw Justin Muslia pop up, the Moose. We're going to have a couple more shirts coming out from him soon, as well as the one that's already out, the King of Violence and Love. That brought a smile to Brandon's face. Of course, that's his teammate, so, you know, they got a little bit inside, a little ribbing going on. Brandon's rocking the Art of MMA. I'm rocking the Art of MMA, so head over to FightersFirst.shop, get all your apparel, support the show, support the brand, and most importantly, support the fighters. All right, Brandon, how you doing today, buddy? I know you've been heavy training, doing a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, man, you know, training's going well, man, but hey, you know, feeling good, ready to rock and roll, hang out with you, talk some MMA with you.
Is it that point in training where you kind of get like the itch because you're still like a month plus out, and you know you kind of want to turn it up a notch, but you still got to like you have to pace yourself, right?
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, things are. I mean, this is the time where, you know, things are definitely turning up. You know, especially when we're sparring and stuff like that. But yeah, you know, we're just going all out. You know, making sure that the conditioning's up to par. You know, getting the technical things down, and then we apply it during sparring time.
I've always thought conditioning was probably the least of your problems because you always stay in pretty great shape.
I mean,
no. There's fight shape and then there's like regular shape.
Exactly. I mean, it's one thing is one thing to look in shape, but it's another thing to be in shape.
Yeah, cardio and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
But hey, this is like what, your third camp down in the last year, so you're pretty good to go. I can't wait to see you in June. I can't wait for that fight. Gut Check Promotions, check it out. Mr. Cuttino against Gary Mack. We'll see that in Delaware. I still can't say the name.
Hockinson, Delaware.
Check it out. It's going to be available, and I think it's also on Fight TV or something like that.
I forgot the name of their website, but it's in my
Gut Check Promotions. Yeah. We'll have the link in everything.
Tweet. Yeah.
Brandon, there was good and bad last week, right? We knew Kayla was going to take care of business. I did say it was probably going to go to a decision. Like the girl that she was facing kind of has a way of making it a little dirty, grappling, holding on to things. Kayla wasn't able to smash her out the way she normally does. You know, looking back on that, she got the win. Tim was right. Like he predicted Cooper, but he said Leal would be a tough opponent. Came out, gave Cooper all kinds of trouble. Of course, Cooper is another guy that came in slightly overweight, missed the scales. There was a couple of those. So Cooper really was kind of like behind the ball. He got like busy late in the third round, but it was way too late at that point. And then Jenna Fabian missed weight by 5 pounds.
Yeah.
But then got the win over Julia Budd, but Julia Budd still gets the points because of the way the system works. She could have actually took the fight off if she wanted, but she wanted to compete, so they fought anyway. And then Fabian got the win, even though she doesn't get any points for it. Just so much action. Break down that PFL card for me. What you think of some of the stuff going on? Pettis?
No, man. PFL card was good. You know, like I said, I want to say the 155 pound, like the lightweight division, women and men's, man, were on fire. You know, Sergio Pettis looked real good.
Anthony.
Man, I mean Anthony Pettis. I know. I said the reason why it was, man, he looked so in shape. You thought it was Sergio for a second, man. He looked so thin.
Sergio on the shelf, man. Sergio,
you know what I'm saying, man. His face was slim, body was slim, looking trim.
He looked good.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? He came out, did his thing, looked real good. Like I said, you know, Kayla Harrison did her thing. And Julia Budd, man, I was kind of shocked that, you know, the way how that fight went. But hey, Jenna Fabian, man, she is a tall lady. Like, I kind of forgot how tall she was. But man, like, I mean,
that's because she was on her back the whole time against Kayla.
Yeah. You know, but yeah, no, but it was a good card. You know, it had some good fights.
Larissa Pachenko.
Yeah, it would do like say first round knockout, right? Yeah, it was a knockout, right?
First round knockout.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you what, my girl Abigail got robbed. Like, I know it's a feel-good story with the whole Ukrainian and everything with Olesnik, but if anybody watched that fight, Olesnik won the first round. Or, I'm sorry, Kolesnik. Kolesnik won the first round. Second and third round were Abigail. She won everything on the stats. She won everything, like beating her to the punch, throwing more punches. Like, I do not understand. Even the fans, like, did the whole, they do the voting thing at the end of the fights.
Yeah.
Thought Abigail Montez won that fight. Like I said, I know it's a feel-good story with the Ukrainian situation and everything, but Abigail got robbed.
I mean, I don't know, man, because I really want to say, like, Abigail didn't really make a stink about it, because I want to say I felt like
that's just not her personality.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I kind of really thought maybe she did kind of lose that one. Because I want to say, like, was the first round, I think she lost, and I want to say, man, this is going back like a week ago or like last Friday, but I want to say, like, I thought maybe she lost the third as well. Like,
I mean, honestly, look, I tried to watch it impartially. I'm a fan, like, but impartially, like, I watched it a couple times, and I was just like, she won rounds 2 and 3, and the stats back it up. Like, I'm not a big stats guy because I know sometimes, especially, I'm one of the big advocates. Like, stuff can happen that's not on the stat sheet, right? Like, you can throw 50 jabs, but if somebody throws, 20 power punches that do way more damage, right? Like, the stats don't always tell the truth. But with leg kicks and just the accuracy, her accuracy was like double that of Kolesnik. Like she was just landing more accurately. She was landing more. She started off slow, but the second and third round, and I don't know. It just goes back to one, like, we'll talk about this, especially when it comes to the Rose thing in a second, but open scoring. Like, if you're losing, maybe you go all out in that third round, or just the one style of scoring. But yeah, I thought it was a robbery. I think she's going to get screwed this season because now she's not going to get the points. But other than that, I mean, it was just a fantastic. Speaking of turning back the clock, Rory McDonald.
Yep.
He took
out Brett Cooper in the first round.
Yeah. So a fantastic card. What about Bellator? Bellator, your boy took the L. And real quick, I do want to point this out. Brandon has now passed me in wins, but he's behind me in percentage points. He's got like one more win than me, but he's like behind me in percentage points, though. He did finally have a fight canceled this week with the Cowboy Cerrone fight. But I am still the lead dog. But it's like this. Like this. I got to get my shit back together this week. I can't let him catch up to me. But speaking of one of the losses Brandon had, as he says, the darkness, Ryan Bader came in and took care of business.
Yeah, man, Ryan Bader just came in. I mean, his game plan was simple. It was to get close, take him down, and keep him there. And that's really kind of how the fight went. Like, I kind of really thought Ryan Bader would have tried to keep the fight standing, use his speed, use his hands. But I guess he wanted to go back to his wrestling roots, and that's what he did. Because even after the fight, when the fight was over and he was doing his post-fight interview in the cage, he said, wrestling, folks, get your kids wrestling at an early age. So, that's what he wanted to do. In Chicago, couldn't do anything until like the fifth round. That's kind of like when he showed life, and there was like a moment where he was going after it, but then Ryan Bader just took him down again and kind of kept him there.
I mean, All-American, right? Like, one of the best, like, in college ever. Like, Ryan Bader had a huge pedigree going into, like, the Ultimate Fighter and all that stuff coming out of college. So, definitely that. And then your boy Yoel Romero turned back the clock. He just punished Polizzi. I was completely wrong about that. I thought he'd fade late. He did not. It
was the third round is where he came on and he got that finish.
Yeah, right at the end. Like, everybody was confused at the end. They were like, wait, decision, finish, what happened? And it ended up being a finish. They ended up giving them the finish, like, literally at the bell at the end of the fight. So, your boy Mike Beltran.
Yeah.
Man, Gallon looked great. Lorenz Larkin turned back the clock. So many great fights. Yves Landau, man, that needs of the body, some of that stuff he was doing to work. Any other thoughts on that Bellator card?
I mean, just like I tell people, man, Bellator always puts on good shows, man. You gotta tune in, you gotta watch.
Yeah, especially those overseas fights. You don't know a lot of the names because there are a lot of local regional fighters, but they all come out to put on a show because this is their chance to be on the grand stage and try to make a name for themselves. I mean, there was just so many fun fights on that one, and then all the controversy at UFC 274. We start off, Oliveira misses weight by a half pound, which is a whole other thing we'll talk about later. He goes on to have a chaotic round with Gaethje. He got caught. Gaethje got caught. Eventually, Oliveira gets the back, finishes it up, puts Gaethje to sleep, which funny enough, Conor thought Gaethje was faking. He's like, you already tapped. Don't pretend like you're asleep now. Of course, they got a long history online, beefing back and forth. Your girl Carla got the job done in what could only be described as one of the worst fights in UFC history. I know you love Carla, but there's pictures of literally, this is not even made up, of Israel Adesanya falling asleep during that fight.
Mm-hmm.
There was an interview with Sean O'Malley. They're like, what did you think of the Rose Carla fight? And he just stood there like this for like a second.
Yeah.
They're like, did we lose connection? He's like, no, that's just what I thought of the fight. It was brutal. Of course, Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson had a hell of a crazy fight. And then there were some snooze fests. Like, obviously, Shogun and St. Preux wasn't the most exciting fight. But you had some great fights like Chaos Williams and Randy Brown. What do you think of that card?
Yeah, no, man. Like I said, some fights were on fire, some fights weren't. That's just how it goes in the fight game, man. Sometimes there are bangers and sometimes there are snoozers. That's just how it goes. Like I said, styles make fights, and that's just how it goes.
I think the fans were a little bit overzealous early. Like, obviously,
it's Arizona, man. Yeah,
obviously the Carla and Rose fight was really boring, but because neither girl, I think, threw a punch in the first round, but or if they did, they threw like 3 each or something like crazy.
4 each.
Yeah, but the way they were reacting during the Shogun fight was a little bit much. The way they were reacting during some of the other fights. By the way, the Cowboy fight and Lozana fight will be pushed back. They're going to fight, I believe, in June now.
Same night as my fight, June 18th in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, they're fighting on that card. And then, funny enough, the person happiest about Carla winning the title is Joanna Jędrzejczyk, because she was like, I think I'm going to get my belt back now. She was like, easy win.
Wait, Lee.
Yeah, she got to get through Zhang first, and that's not going to be an easy fight. You saw the last time those two matched up, and they both came out looking like they were in a 5-card pileup.
Yep.
So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on like that. Of course, that main event. What you think of that one?
Man, you already know, man. The Bronx, baby, where I picked him, and man, he did his thing. Like I said, man, like I said, I just saw that he had too many options to win. And it's like you said, like you knew that Gaethje was not going to go on the ground. Like to me, like the Bronx basically has a chance where like if he can get hurt and you see him like he just lays on his back because he knew that Gaethje isn't going to engage. He's not going to go there on the ground.
Gaethje's a wrestler, but he doesn't have any jiu-jitsu. Exactly,
man. He's gonna get tapped out. So that basically was the Bronx's like 10-second count. If this was boxing, lays down, he gets him a nice 8 count, 10 count, a little breather, and then boom, he can get back up, and then he can go back to work, and that's what happened.
I told you last week, like I couldn't tell you a reason why I picked Gaethje. It was just a feeling. It wasn't like I didn't think Oliveira could win, because I did, and I told you that last week. I did think Oliveira could win. It's just I just had a gut feeling, and honestly, early on, it looked like Gaethje was going to win because Gaethje dropped him a couple times, like hit him, got him, rocked a couple times, and then Oliveira would come back and rock Gaethje because he got off his patience and came rushing in and got caught again, and then once it went to the ground, it was all over. Like you knew Gaethje had a chance standing up because obviously his hands are that good, but on the ground, it's another world, and Gaethje was done. You saw him laying like a fish out of water. Like when he had in that rear neck, and he fought it off a couple times, but eventually you knew once Oliveira had his back, it was over. And that's like that with anybody that steps up to Charles Oliveira. He's we'll talk about it in a second, but he is definitely the uncrowned champion. And what happened, the rules. Like I'm not going to pretend like it's not a rule. Coming into a title fight, you got to be a certain weight. You can blame the hotel scales. You can blame everything else. But you know what you got to do, and everybody else made weight except for him. So,
your girl Norma Dumont missed weight too, but
yeah, but I'm talking about in the title fights. Like every other, like Carla made weight, Rose made weight, Justin made weight, and Justin even pointed out while Oliveira's trying to make weight, he's already back up to 165 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So, we can talk about weight scales and all this stuff, and we talk about weight cuts and everything else, but the rules. So I'm not going to defend Charles Oliveira on that. But at the same time, there is nobody else in his class right now. Like, he is just destroying everybody that you put in front of him. I don't know how many times he can get knocked down and keep getting up. That was my thing last week when we were talking about it. I was like, dude keeps getting knocked down. Like, one time he's not going to get up. And that, I'd love to see him and Chandler run it back. Like, I think that'd be a thing. Of course, Oliveira, he called out Diaz, he called out McGregor. Chandler called out McGregor. He called out the winner or loser of Gaethje Oliveira. All of those are rematches except for the McGregor fight for both those guys. Everybody wants McGregor. Everybody wants that payday. Like you always say, you're prize fighters. You get paid to fight, and it doesn't matter if Conor loses 10 fights in a row. If he brings in the biggest pay-per-view numbers, everybody wants to fight him because they're going to get paid. And the more he loses, the more they probably want to fight him because they think he's an easier fight. But he's always a dangerous fight because he's had Poirier rocked a couple times. Poirier was just a better fighter and was able to get through early rushes of Conor, like the guillotine attempt, and then Poirier used his jiu-jitsu to get out of it and smothered Conor and beat his ass. And then the leg break thing, and it's always one thing or another. But Conor's going to be a draw. He's going to bring money. It's the same reason Juliana Pena is calling out Ronda Rousey. She knows you're backing up the Brinks truck if that fight happens. You know it. But that was 274. Great stuff. I do want to mention a couple news notes real quick before we get to our show today. Brandon Moreno, Kai Kara France, looks like they're going to have an interim title fight. They're going to be a rematch probably for 277, UFC 277, because Figueiredo's finger is still pretty messed up. He has to have surgery on it. Yoel Romero and Melvin Manoff, Tim talked about it last week. That now has been rebooked for September 23rd in Dublin. Jones and Stipe are looking like they're going to be taking place September 24th. And then UFC 276 looking pretty stacked. Looks like we're going to have Volkanovski and Max 3, as well as Izzy and Cannonier going on that same card. So,
yeah, man. I'll be out there in Vegas, but I won't be out there in Vegas for UFC, though. But, hey, I'll still be out there at the same time.
Sneak in the back door or something like that. Find a teammate somewhere. Be like, yo, can I come with you? You need to get one of your teammates on that card. Just be like, yo, can I come in? Can I come watch the fights? What are you going out to Vegas for that weekend?
Money in the Bank, baby.
Oh, you're going out for the show? Yep. You're going to go watch Cody win Money in the Bank?
Is that what's going to go down? That's your pick?
He's the promo.
All right.
Have you seen the promo for it?
No,
it's basically him. It's him in Allegiant Stadium for July 4th weekend. It's him in Allegiant Stadium, talking about everything with July 4th and then football and everything in the stadium and how they're bringing Money in the Bank to Vegas. And, yeah, it's basically a Cody Rhodes promo. The whole, 30-second promo is Cody talking, narrating and walking on the field and basically saying they're going to take over Allegiant Stadium July 4th weekend for Money in the Bank. If that doesn't say, hey, the new kid getting paid $4 million, like the fourth highest paid fighter and wrestler in the business in the company, he's probably getting Money in the Bank. Also, they said Money in the Bank is going to now get a guaranteed spot at WrestleMania. So I don't know what that means for the Royal Rumble. Who knows? Maybe that was just a little error in the script. I don't know, but that's what they said. So, but that's all the stuff happening last week and coming. Brandon, you ready to get to the show and talk about some stuff?
Yes.
All right. Sound more energetic, buddy. I'm the one that's supposed to be dragging today. Of course, Brandon was training all morning, so you have to forgive the man. Over the weekend, it was announced Daniel Cormier going into the Hall of Fame. Of course, well-deserved. Him and Khabib be going in the same class this summer. International Fight Week, they'll be inducting them officially. I wanted to take a moment, Brandon, and kind of reflect on some of our best DC memories. Obviously, there's the highs, the Strikeforce Grand Prix. There's him winning the UFC lightweight and heavyweight titles. There's the lows against John Jones and Stipe, this last two fights he lost. I'll start with you. What are some of your best Daniel Cormier memories?
I was just thinking all my favorite DC memories are actually things outside of the cage. They're not his fights. One of them is his time on Tough when he was a coach and him and Stipe had to do the coach's challenge, and he basically stepped on the ice for the first time, and he was a goalie. Like, I just thought that was funny, and I want to say he never played hockey in his life, but I want to say he won it. He beat Stipe at that. So I just think that was just funny. And then also too,
he's an Olympic athlete, bro.
Yeah, and then also too, my other two is, of course, when Rose beat Joanna at MSG, you just heard him go Thug Rose, Thug Rose, Thug Rose, which is, of course, that's what everybody knows him for when I was talking about Rose. So that was just great. And then my other one is basically just you said it, but him and the John Jones beef, the off air talk about, when John Jones was like, hey, are you there now? And talking about killing them and stuff like that. And he goes like, oh, you think I'm gonna let you just kill me? So those are really my three main memories of DC.
I mean, you throwing in personality and other stuff that happened outside of fights. I'm surprised you didn't mention Brock Lesnar and him in the little pushing fight.
Oh yeah.
My fondest memories go back to Strikeforce. Like, you got this guy who you probably thought maybe should have been a 205er. He was short, stocky. You didn't know much about him because he came up, he had the Olympic pedigree, but he was coming out of nowhere a little bit in Strikeforce. He had this undefeated run, beating Bigfoot Silva, beating Josh Barnett, winning the Strikeforce Grand Prix. He never won the Strikeforce Grand heavyweight title because they kind of, like, at that point they were merging with the UFC. So he kind of at that point went over to the UFC after he won the Grand Prix. But then he made the run in the UFC. He had a couple heavyweight fights and he dropped down to 205 because obviously he didn't want to fight his best friend Cain Velasquez. They trained together. And admittedly, he thought Cain was the best heavyweight in the world. Mm-hmm. He didn't go to heavyweight until Cain was well out of the picture. He made that tough weight cut. It was very tough for him for a long time to do the 205 weight cut. That fight he had with Rumble Johnson, like, I thought Rumble was going to knock his head off. And then here comes Daniel Cormier getting the sub win. Like, what? Like, he found ways to win. One of my favorite memories is when he first went up to heavyweight to fight Stipe the first time. And, he had that dirty boxing. Like, Stipe rocked him for a second, and then all of a sudden his dirty boxing got knocked out Stipe. Here's one of the longest reigning heavyweight champions we had, and he took that title to become a two-belt champion. Some great memories for DC. Daniel Cormier is one of those guys that we always talked about probably should be in professional wrestling. Obviously, he has a huge wrestling love. He was an Olympic wrestler, collegiate All-American, obviously loves pro wrestling. He's getting paid a lot of money right now to do the UFC commentary and the stuff he's doing now. And he's doing a great job, like Brandon said. Like, his personality is crazy, right? Like, people like Dominic Cruz and some other people have criticized him for maybe not watching as much tape. But I don't think that's what he's there for. I think he's there to kind of give his opinion. I think he's there to be color commentary, to be like, the entertainment. You let John Anik, let Joe Rogan, let them break down stuff. Let Daniel Cormier just react. And I think that works well. I think Daniel Cormier is very lovable. I think a lot of people have a great relationship with him outside of John Jones. He still has a good relationship with Stipe. That tells you. I mean, they went to war 3 times, right? Didn't go very well for Daniel Cormier the last couple of fights. I was always surprised he kind of left on a loss. I just didn't see that sitting well with somebody like him who has the pedigree, but it just shows where he is in life, that he's very content. He's accomplished more than almost anybody on this planet when it comes to mixed martial arts. Like I said, Olympics, collegiate, and Strikeforce and UFC championships. Congrats to Daniel Cormier. Any final thoughts on Daniel Cormier going in the Hall of Fame?
Nah, man. Glad he got his Popeyes endorsement too,
Yeah, he can sit there and eat as much Popeyes as he wants now. No more weight cuts for Daniel Cormier. So congrats to GC. Definitely looking forward to International Fight Week and seeing him and Khabib get their due and get inducted into the Hall of Fame together. They're good friends, so it fits. Elsewhere, we're talking about Charles Oliveira. We talked about it a little bit earlier, the uncrowned champion, right? There's a couple ways to look at this one. For one, he even though he got stripped of the title before he came into it, he came out and took care of business. He came out even more motivated, more angry. You saw it in the post-fight promo interview. I think stripping him of the title actually just kind of like fueled him even more to where, like, whether it's him fighting Islam for the title or him fighting Beneil or anybody else for the title later this summer, it's a farce, right? We know who the champion is. Like, you can say it's a number one contender versus number two contender, whatever you want. We know that Dobronx, I can't even talk right now. We know Dobronx is the champion. We know Charles Oliveira is the champion. Like, you can sit there and not put the belt on him all you want. We know who the guy is. But Brandon, the thing I want to ask you about this is, one, I do want to get your thoughts on the whole situation. But two, every other fight you fight in your life, you have a 1 pound allowance. And the way championship fights work, you have to be under the weight limit, exactly, or lower. But the whole point of weight limits and weight divisions is so you don't have a 300-pound guy fighting a 150-pound guy. It's so you have people within relatively close range of each other. So why do title fights have to be exactly, instead of having the 1 pound allowance, which you fight your entire 99.9% of your career with that 1 pound allowance, because of this exact reason that scales sometimes can be off, or even if they're accurate, the hotel scale might have been off, or whatever scale he thought he had made weight the night before might have been off. And when you're cutting that much weight, which is a whole nother topic, because we know weight cutting is an issue in MMA or any sport really that does it, every ounce is hard to lose at that point. You can give him a half hour, you can give him 45 minutes. He might not be able to lose any more water. Like, that's it. Which was Charles Oliveira's case. So what do you think, A, of the situation that actually happened, and B, what do you think of the whole championship weight?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I really never understood. I never found out why that is, why championship fights, like, you have to be the exact weight, like why you don't get that 1 pound allowance. I don't know why that is. I don't know why they just want to make it feel different because it's a championship fight, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I know everybody has their opinions on it. Like, I do know that usually him being, I guess I want to say Brazilian, means that he usually weighs himself in kilos and pounds. There can be a little bit of a difference, because it's like you do. Because I remember when I had fought at Glory 55, Alex Pereira was on the same card, and when he would go weigh himself, he would change the scale to kilos, weigh himself in kilos, and then, like, I remember he had stepped out, and then when I had to go check out the scale, I had to change it back to pounds. So I know, like, there is a little bit of difference because kilos and pounds, they aren't exactly the same. Yeah. So maybe so he could be underneath that. But then also, just like I said, man, it was 0.5. Usually, man, like, if you're cutting, you think that you're on point, and then next, like your body kind of has a moment where the body just thinks that the body does think that it's done. And then it's like, oh, you're trying to lose that weight, but there's nothing happens. Like, I mean, it can't happen where the body just shuts down. Like, the body is just done. Like, it doesn't get going anymore, but I mean, Ariel Helwani went on trying to say, like, how, certain fights, you see the title fights where, like, there are those people that just have you step on, boom, it's good, blah, blah, and they're off. Like I said, this is Arizona. It's a different commission. They don't get the big fights like, say, a Nevada, New York, does, or a California or anything like that. So, maybe you're saying this guy was a real stickler, as they want to say. But, I mean, weight is one of those things that's not accurate. Like, you can, like, literally, I can weigh myself now. I weigh myself in 5 minutes. It might be off by or change a couple ounces. Yep. It's, they over time, obviously, combat sports has made it as much of an exact science as you can get it, right? Weight cutting is such a big deal. Everybody's trying to get that edge. We know half these guys at 155 should be fighting at 185, like, when they're just walking around. But they do cut this weight to try to get an edge, try to get this, try to get that. But it's a fluid situation. Like you just said, his body probably stopped. Mm-hmm. It went into that period of shock or whatever it is. Like, I can't lose another ounce. Like, this is where I'm at. And no matter how much he wanted to, that's it. It was a half pound. It is what it is. And it's just, to me, it's ridiculous that you fight your entire career giving that 1 pound, because weight is a fluid situation. That's why the 1 pound exists, because sometimes you could weigh in a hotel
for 155 pound, you could weigh 145 or 154.5. You can be like, oh, I'm under, no problem.
Yep.
You get to the scale, you're 155.2.
Yep.
Like it can change just like that because of your metabolism, the way your body's burning certain calories, the way your body digests things. That sometimes it goes here, it goes there, it weighs different. It's all a process. And I think the reason why the 1 pound allowance was there is because of that. And then you go to title fights and it's like, no, you got to be exact because it's a title fight. Yeah. And I just think it's stupid. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, yeah, like, I mean, the reason why I know they usually do the pound allowance is really, it's because they know that not all scales are the same. Like that really is the reason why, is because the scale that you could be using could say that you're this, and then you go to another scale and it could say you're this, you know. So that's why everything is, you know, that is the reason why they kind of do give you that pound allowance.
And you know what's going to happen now? Now Oliveira is probably going to come in his next fight at like 154.5. Yeah. Like he's going to come in way under just to prove a point. You know, you're talking about a guy that fought at featherweight. He had trouble making weight at featherweight, and that's why he went up to 155. But, you know, this guy can make that weight. He's made it like 8, 9, 10 times in a row. It's not a big deal to him. It clearly was an issue of where a miscommunication somewhere. I mean, it's the hotel or whatever.
Well, I mean, also too. I think the video was showing that the scale was still moving. It wasn't done yet, you know. But
well, I mean, he weighed a couple times, so
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think Gaethje kind of got what he deserved for kind of like blowing up the spot over a half pound. Like he said, "Oh, look at this guy. He's struggling. He's not professional. He's not that," and then you get choked out. Like, you know, sometimes. I know shit talking is part of the game, but sometimes you got to kind of keep your mouth shut, let things play out. Because now, like, and let's be real, Gaethje had his chances in that fight. Gaethje had Oliveira severely hurt, and he couldn't finish the deal. Like you said, he likes to lead with leg kicks and stuff like that, and when it's just throwing hands, not necessarily his specialty. He likes to throw combos off the leg kicks, and when a guy's hurt, sometimes Gaethje has a hard time finishing that deal because now it's just like landing punches, and now he has to find a way to get in angles, and he couldn't do it, and he didn't want to go to the ground with Oliveira because when he did, that's what happens. But I think the weight cutting issue is far from over. I think some people were being completely ridiculous. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, he'll fight one more fight and then go up to 170. I'm like, no. Like, Oliveira has never had trouble making 155. This was his weight class. He fights better than anybody at this weight class. And then on a side note, now he wants to help like Tony Ferguson. Like now he wants to take Tony Ferguson out and like train him a little bit, get him back to what he was. So, any final thoughts on the whole weight scales thing?
Oliveira is the champ.
Yeah, uncrowned champ. Look, there's no doubt. Everybody in the world, when you think UFC lightweight champ, you don't think vacant. You think Charles Oliveira. So. He earned it. He's deserved it, and he continues to beat people's asses. So
that's it.
The last thing we'll talk about before we get to our previews and picks is kind of still a developing story a little bit. It was announced that the UFC has banned fighters from carrying flags in the cage and to the cage. When this ban actually took place, it could have been a couple events ago. According to Peter Yan, he wasn't allowed to bring his flag, but obviously, Sterling did have his Jamaican flag in the cage. So maybe at the point it started off as being a ban on Russian flags, which would make sense with the conflict going on around the world. There's different stories. Some people think the ban is because of the UFC's corporate ties and obviously Bilal Muhammad having a Palestinian flag. There was a time where Bilal Muhammad got cut off in a post-fight interview after Damian Maia. That we didn't even see Damian Maia's like retirement because they immediately cut the feed to a promo instead of showing Bilal Muhammad's interview when he first started kind of like really promoting the Palestinian flag and his heritage. You obviously have the Russian-Ukraine situation going on. But Brandon, the reason why I brought this story today is obviously it's a news story. Obviously people are talking about it. But it offends me. It offends me on the deepest levels. Like it was bad enough when they took away a fighter's ability to make more money, like whether it was having sponsors, having the flag behind them that had all the different sponsors on them, the kits that had all their sponsors on them where they can make all the money. That I kind of understood as a corporate move, right? They wanted uniforms. They want to be a professional league. It sucked, but I kind of understood it. They definitely need to pay the fighters more. That's not a question. But you could kind of make sense out of it, right? Because it was getting kind of overboard. People were trying to put pads. People were trying to tattoo Golden Palace on themselves and stuff like that. But when it comes to professional sports, when it comes to a fight game, whether it's boxing or MMA, you're talking about a global thing. And people's patriotism and nationalism is a big deal. The reason why Conor McGregor draws so many fans is because it's all about Ireland, right? It's the Irish flag. It's bringing, 10 to 25,000 people to an event, maybe even more, that are all Irish supporting their guy. You look at what just happened in UFC London, the reason why they're running it back in July because of all that nationalism with all the British fighters and the UK fighters. You look at people like Aljamain Sterling with his Jamaican roots. You look at people, we just talked about Koznick on the PFL card that had the Ukrainian flag and everything going on right there, how important that is to her. We'll talk about it in a minute, the reason why MVP is fighting Storley instead of Amosov, because he's right there right now fighting, in Ukraine for his, friend, his family and his country. Patriotism is at the heart of fighting. Anderson Silva and their Brazilian flag and all these people. Like, you can live in America, you can do whatever you want, but so many fighters are international these days. And so many fighters are so proud to represent their country, whether it's on an Olympic stage, whether it's in a boxing ring, or whether it's in MMA. And I think the fact that they just let corporate America take over a fight game by banning flags. What are your thoughts?
I just say it's just taking away personality once again, like you talked about them all wearing the same thing, all looking the same. And now here you go. Like, this was something that did separate people from others, coming out with the flag and everything like that. But now they can't do that. They like basically everybody interests look the same. The only thing that ever looks different is if it's a title fight. And that's when they make the lights go out when they're doing the introductions. Other than that, everybody's entrance, walkout, it's all the same, besides them having different music. But yeah, that's really what I just see. I just see it as another thing where you're just taking away a fighter's personality, their flavor, their spice. You're just taking away from them. You're just making them another plain Jane or plain John.
Yeah, it kind of came to news like when Chito Vera couldn't bring his flag out against Rob Font. People started talking about it a little bit more, but I think it's just sad. I think it's sad because that's one reason why people fight. Remember the old hashtag, what do you fight for? We talked about that during your interview and stuff like that. What do you fight for? Most of these fighters are fighting for their country and their families. It's the international fighters. And now you're just fighting for a paycheck? That's really what you're saying? That's going to take away. I know maybe I'm being over dramatic, but I think it's going to take the passion away from the sport. If you're coming in the cage really just to get a payday, versus coming in the cage, giving every ounce of blood, sweat, and tears you have for your country, I think that's a difference for a lot of these international fighters that are traveling all the way across the world a lot of times to fight in the United States. I think it's dumb. I think it's a bad move. And for Dana White to say, why? No, Dana, we don't know why. You haven't said why. And if you think it's as obvious as Ukraine, Russia, it's not, because you have 1,000 different storylines going into this one. I think Dana White, once again, is putting corporate greed ahead of fighters' interests. And look, there may never be a day that there's anybody above the UFC as far as stage presence, brand awareness. But this is going to drive more fighters to Bellator, more fighters to PFL, because they can be themselves. Like you said, Brandon said, uniqueness, and be themselves. And at the end of the day, the UFC will keep on trucking, just like the NFL, just like all these other corporate sponsors, leagues, no matter who's there. WWE, doesn't matter. There'll be a new WWE champion. There'll be a new NFL champion. There'll be a new NBA champion. LeBron James can retire. Michael Jordan retired. There was always somebody next. But you see it with fighters going now to like Bellator and other places. You saw it with PFL. And even though I think Abigail Montes got robbed, Koznick was probably the happiest fighter in the world because she got to come out, represent her Ukrainian family and friends, especially during this difficult time. And that's what you miss when you take away the flag. You know, a lot of people got mad when Kaepernick kneeled at the flag. Imagine if there was no flag to even kneel to. Imagine if the NFL took away the United States flag from there. You know how many people in America would stop watching the NFL instantly? Like a lot of people stopped watching because of the Kaepernick thing. Imagine how much they would stop if there was no flag at all. It's a big deal to people. People want to believe in something. And a lot of times it's their country. All right, Brandon, that was a nice rant. I haven't had one in a while. Are you ready to try to, I don't know, it's not a tie. I am technically ahead of you but are you ready to see who the best is this week and make our preview and picks?
Yeah, man, I'm ready. I'm ready to make some picks. This is going to be an interesting one.
All right, well, we're starting over in London, Bellator 281. What time are they doing that show?
I want to say the same time. I think it's going to be 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
1 o'clock's prelims, 4 o'clock's main card.
All right, yeah, they're over there. It was originally scheduled to be, speaking of the conflict, it was originally scheduled to be MVP versus Amosov for the welterweight title. Now it's MVP versus Storley. It's going to be for an interim title, which is a whole nother. Interim titles make my skin crawl. I'm so sick of interim titles. Just call it a number one contender fight. Just stop with the interim titles. But MVP versus Storley, they're going to be doing it. We also got Machida back in action against Fabian Edwards. Your girl Denise Quijos going against Kana Watanabe. A number of Paul Daly's in action. A number of other fun things going on there. But we're going to start with the main event. Brandon, give me your thoughts on MVP and Storley and tell me what's going to happen.
Man, it's a good matchup. You know, striker, wrestler, striker, grappler, however you want to think about it. But yeah, it should be very interesting. I mean, last week I picked Czech Congo. He was in France, thought he was going to show out. This week, MVP is in England, his country. So you know he's going to want to show out. But this time, I'm going to go with the wrestler. I'm going to go with Logan Storley. I don't know, man. He trains at ATT, I believe. So that's a good gym. You know he's going to come prepared. He only has one loss, which is against who is the champion, in Bellator. So I just think this is a good matchup for Logan Storley. Like I said, we really still haven't
seen loss at that.
You know what I'm saying? We still haven't seen MVP against a really true good, high really grappler. He's kind of mostly going against strikers. Like, I mean, he did get that Lima fight, but Lima really wasn't trying to grapple. Lima was standing and trading with him, which of course I still think that second fight kind of went Lima's way. But I think I'm just gonna go with Logan Storley. I think he's gonna be able to get it to the ground, keep him there, ground and pound, or get a submission, and he'll be your interim champ.
This fight comes down to what Storley does on the ground, right? Because Ross Houston got MVP down a lot, right? He just couldn't do absolutely anything with those takedowns. And MVP got up and beat Houston's ass, right? Like every time Houston would take him down, MVP would get right back up. It kind of showed us a fight where he's fighting a true wrestler. What would he do if he was on his back, right? And MVP showed that he's become more of a full mixed martial artist and he can get back up. He might not be a grappler, but he knows how to defend himself and get back up. One thing I saw with Logan Storley in that Amosov fight was I went back and watched it a couple days ago. I mean, I don't know how it's a split decision. I think Amosov clearly won that fight. But one thing I saw was at distance, Storley struggles. Storley wants to get in. He wants to grab you. He wants to make it dirty. He wants to fight you inside. He wants to wrestle you. If you get MVP at a distance, he's going to kill you. With those kicks, those punches, like the odd angles that he comes from, everything's unorthodox. I think Storley has a chance, but I think this is MVP's title to win because they really want that MVP versus Amosov fight. But I think this is MVP's chance. I don't think MVP's going to miss it, especially at home. I just think there's too much on the line for him not to come 100% serious with this. So I think MVP is going to win this one. I'm kind of doing the opposite of you this time. I'm taking the home guy just because I don't think he could do it at home. He's getting up there in age too.
Just remember, folks. Just remember last week that guy picked Justin Gaethje. He was the home guy as well. Because remember, Gaethje is really from Arizona, and he just had a feeling, and you saw what happened. So just remember that, folks. Just remember that.
You just admitted you picked Chuck Congo for the same reasons, and that didn't work out either. So what are you saying? What he's saying is co-main event, Lyoto Machida, who hasn't won a fight in a couple of years, against Fabian Edwards, who hasn't won a fight in a couple of years. Who gets the monkey off their back in this one, Brandon?
I'm just gonna go with Lyoto Machida. I'm gonna go with him. Like I said, I still think he had like you saw Yoel Romero last week do his thing. I just think Lyoto's gonna come back, bounce back, do his thing as well. He'll get his hand raised.
And the thing about Fabian Edwards is he likes to stretch things out, right? His 2 losses are a split decision and a decision loss. He doesn't go down. He doesn't get finished. But, Lyoto Machida, just like MVP, he likes to kick at weird angles. He'll catch you behind the ear. He uses his karate a lot. But as he's gotten older, you tend to see him doing more traditionally striking, right? Especially with his hands, a lot more boxing, a lot more lunging punches. Not the old Lyoto Machida. And one thing I always kind of thought as a kid, especially when I did a lot of karate as a kid, did a lot of taekwondo and aikido, is that karate lasts with you no matter how old you are, right? Like you could be 55, 60 years old. You're still going to throw those kicks. You're still going to do certain things because you stay in a certain kind of shape. I think it's a mentality thing with Machida because he's been in MMA so long, he's been transitioning more into a traditional MMA fighter. If Lyoto Machida mentally decided to turn that switch back to karate, I feel like it's enough to be different to where now it would work as much as it worked when he was winning the 205-pound title in UFC, and nobody thought anybody could touch the guy. I'm going to pick Machida, mainly because I don't think Fabian Edwards does anything super great any certain way. He can make a fight dirty. He can make it last the decision, but I don't think he does enough to really win. So I'm going to pick Machida just because he has the ability to go out and be Machida, but I'm not confident in his pick at all, only because he hasn't looked like that in 2 years. So we'll see. Maybe this might be one of his last hurrahs. He comes all out and makes a show, but we'll see. What's your fight to watch on this card?
My fight to watch is the Luke Traynor versus Simon Biong fight. I'm going with Luke Traynor in that fight. Undefeated, 5-0. But man, he comes out, he brings it. He's been looking good his last few fights, so I think he's gonna get the job done and he's gonna stay undefeated. Did
you run that decision by Denise Quijos? She's gonna be very upset that you didn't pick her.
Hey man, I like her and I like I like Watanabe too, so that's why that's kind of why I stayed away from it.
Oh, you didn't want to have to pick against her?
No.
My fight pick is Encamp and Lemminger. Look, Oliver Encamp and Mark Lemminger are the same guy. They're both really good wrestlers. They're very, they got that European style. This was a fight I picked only because I think it's going to be one of the fights of the night. I think it's going to be a very close battle. I think it's going to go back and forth. I've taken Encamp in this decision. I think he's the better fighter, but Lemminger's going to bring the fight, and I think this is going to be fight of the night. I purely picked this one because I think it's going to be worth watching. I think it's going to be I didn't take an easy pick on this one, 100%. I think Encamp's going to take this one, but I do think it's going to be a barn burner, as JR would say, a slobber knocker. I think it's going to be a great fight. We already talked about Denise Quijos. She's going to be in action. Watanabe. We got Paul Daly. Is this another catchweight fight, or is he actually at 170 this time?
I just know it's his retirement fight.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Or at least in MMA. It's his retirement fight in
he
MMA.
has as many MMA retirement fights as the Rolling Stones have retirement tours. I won't believe it until he puts the gloves down in the center of the octagon, or cage in this case, the circle. A couple other fights to look out for. Sorry, I was trying to look for the fight I was talking about. The ladies, Kate Jackson's in action. Alfie Davis is in action for the guys. And then your boy Daniel Weichel in action as well. So some fun stuff going on over in Bellator. And then the next night, make our final picks of the day and get out of here. UFC Vegas 54, a.k.a. ESPN 36. I think I'm just going to start throwing both numbers out there for whoever wants to keep track of whatever they want to keep track of. I don't know, Brandon. But we're talking about Jan Blachowicz and Alexander Rakic. That's going to be a great fight. We also got Ryan Spahn and the Hulk, Ian Kudalaba. We got Davey Grant, Lewis Smokin. We got Chikagian and Rivas. We got a ton of fights on this card. Who you got in that main event, and tell me why?
This is a tough one, man. I like Jan, Polish power, but I'm going to go with Rakic, man. Rakic is on a tear. You know, man's been looking good. I kind of really thought he kind of deserved a title shot a while back, but they just put him on the back burner. You know,
I don't know how Yuri jumped him.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's just because, you know, that it's that Dana White privilege. You know, he's a big fan of Yuri. Hey, man, just putting it out there. You know what it is, people. But I think it's a good fight, you know, for Rakic. I think he can come in, you know, keep Blachowicz at bay, you know, with his striking, and then and then he can get the next title shot after this.
Yeah, I think Rakic is going to take this one. I think Blachowicz had a nice moment. He had that title. He had the feel-good moment, right? Like late in his career, coming out getting the championship after John Jones vacated it. That's not a knock against Blachowicz, but he is getting older. Rakic is younger, faster, stronger. His striking's on a different level. And on top of that, he has enough wrestling defense to prevent Blachowicz from kind of taking down and laying on him. So I think Rakic will probably take care of this one. I think it'll probably get stopped in like about 2 rounds. I don't think it's going the distance, but if it does, I still got Rakic in this one. I think he's on his way to a title shot. He might have gotten skipped this time, but if he beats Blachowicz, there's no way they can skip him another time. So we'll see about that. Over in the co-main event, you got Superman Ryan Spahn against the Hulk. Ian Kudalaba, one superhero versus another. Who you got?
Man, this is a tough one for me. Like,
it's tough because you don't know. On both sides, you have good and bad. Both sides, Ryan Spahn can be superhero. He can be a bum. Ian Kudalaba can be a superhero, or he could be a bum, and you don't know which one's going to show up.
You know what, man? I'm gonna go.
Drink Dr. Pepper.
I'm gonna go with the underdog pick. I'm gonna go with Ryan Spahn. Sorry, should I say? Reason being is because, man, he's the taller fighter. He's 6'5". Kudalaba 6'1". He also has the reach on him, 79 to 75. And then plus 2, like if you look at his wins, he has. I mean, he can TKO you because he's got the reach, but also too, majority of his wins are by submission. So I think he really can sub Kudalaba. Kudalaba has more knockouts, but to me, man, if you're the smaller guy, you're really gonna be able to get in on Spahn and drop him like how Anthony Smith did. I don't know. I don't see it. I think Spahn can keep him at bay, drop and he can drop Kudalaba with his power.
The problem with Kudalaba is he lost to like kickboxers, right? He lost twice to Ankalev. He lost to Dustin Jacoby, right? He just got caught, like all 3 fights. Like Jacoby went to a split decision, but he has problems with people that can keep him at a distance and hit him. And that's Ryan Spahn when Ryan wants to, right? Because there's also times Ryan gets sucked into the opponent's game plan and tries to fight the opponent at what they do. And you never know which one's going to show up on either side of that. Do we get the Kudalaba that showed up against Devin Clark and destroyed him? Do we get the Superman Spahn that showed up against Sakunov and knocked him out in the first round? We don't know. We really don't know. Anthony Smith got him tangled in a rear naked choke too. Kudalaba's got a couple submissions. It's not out of the realm for either guy. I think this is really the epitome of a toss-up fight. And honestly, I'm going to take Ryan Spahn too, because I think he could knock out Kudalaba. Like, I think he has the ability to hit a flash knockout, which I think has always been Kudalaba's like weakness. Like, he gets caught rushing in sometimes. But I can see Kudalaba dragging this out to a decision win too. But I think Ryan Spahn has the potential to end it early, so I'll take Ryan Spahn. What is your fight to watch on this card?
So I went back and forth on this one. Me, king of the lady fights. I was thinking about going with my girl Angela Hill's fight, but sometimes
I'm purposely staying away from Angela.
Exactly.
I will not pick Angela Hill.
Exactly.
Again.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, man, her fights they fall through. So I was like, I'm gonna stay away from this one. But I'm gonna go with the ladies fight on the main card, which is the Jakagan versus Ribas fight. I know everybody likes Amanda Ribas. She's moving up from strawweight to flyweight. This is her first time, and man, she's got no easy fight. This Katlyn Jakagan, Jakagan only loses to who? Basically the champions. That's it. So that's why I'm gonna go with Katlyn Jakagan on this fight. I think she's gonna have the reach on Ribas. Jakagan can strike with you. She can also take you to the ground, wrestle you, submit you. So I just think overall Jakagan is the better fighter. So I'm gonna rock with her.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I think it's going to be a fun fight, though, because Ribas doesn't back down. She has a lot of fire. She just comes at you. That's going to be a fun fight. My fight pick is actually the opening of the prelims. Nick Maximoff and Andre Petrosky. I think it's going to be a great fight. We talked about Maximoff last time. We were like, I think it's funny that he goes from the co-main event to the opening of the prelims, but I don't make the cards. Yep. But we talked about him last time, right? We were like, this guy just finds a way to win. And if he found a way to win last time, that I would be a believer. And I am now a believer. I think Nick Maximoff has all the potential. He beat Soriano. It was a split decision, but it was a tough fight. I think he clearly won it, in my opinion. His takedowns, his strikes, I think it was just well-balanced. I think he has a lot of tools. And like I said, Brandon, he finds ways to win. When you're an undefeated fighter, sometimes that's the biggest, support. If he lost a fight, I think his confidence might go crumbling down. But when you're an undefeated fighter, you find ways to win. You just keep finding ways to win. He's never been overly impressive in any fight he's had. 8 fights, 8-0. Not one fight you can look at like, oh my God, he destroyed that guy. Not one of them. But he just keeps finding ways to win. And all the fights have been entertaining. Andre Petrosky is another guy. He finds ways to win a lot of times too. He's 7-1. But I think this is Maximoff's fight. I think the wrestling will help him win this fight. He'll help balance out Petrosky's kind of outside boxing, kind of wrestle you once in a while type style. So I think Maximoff's going to take this one. Also on that card, I think people should take a look at Michael Johnson's back in action. You always know the menace is going to bring the fight. Angela Hill, Angela, I did it for you. I did it for you. I did not pick your fight for you. I want your fight to go through. She's fighting Verna Jandiroba, which is going to be a great fight. KGB Lee against Aruhu. There's a lot of great ladies fights on this card.
Yep.
Frank Camacho versus Manuel Torres. Davey Grant versus Smoka. There's a lot of fun fights. And then, of course, we're finally getting the debut. Got pushed back a week. Tatsuro Otero versus Carlos Candelario. That fight's going to be taking place on the prelims as well. So we'll finally get to see what the young sensation can do. Brandon, any final thoughts on this weekend's action?
No, man, just looking forward. Just looking forward to the fights. Like I said, you got plenty of lady fights on there. Just really looking forward to them.
And I didn't even mention Jake Hadley. Jake Hadley's on the card too. He's 8-0, fighting Nascimento. So that's gonna be another guy that people have been having their eye on, seeing if he's the real deal or not. Just so much going on between Bellator in London, UFC in Vegas. So it's going to be a fun fight weekend. Of course, check out Brandon's fight on June 18th. We'll talk more about it as we get closer. Hopefully our schedules stay open debate. We started today a little bit late because of Brandon's training. So hopefully we can keep knocking out these episodes. If we do have to take an episode off for his training, we absolutely will, because that comes first. Always fighters first. Make sure you go out and get the merch. It's sweet. As our boys over in wrestling would say, it's too sweet. Mm-hmm. Go get the merch. Check out Brandon's collection. Go support him ahead of his fight. If you order, usually within a couple weeks, it comes in. So make sure you get it now so you have it for fight night. Check out the Mechanic collection. The link is below. You see a picture of the newest shirt down right below my beautiful face. Any final thoughts, Brandon?
No, man, just enjoy the fights, guys.
All right, for the best looking host in all of the network and the other guy, the Mechanic Brandon Cuttino, I'm Mike Ginn. This is Art of MMA, and we're out.